board. I'm Tim Massad. You may not be able to see me, but I'm a research fellow at the Kennedy School. I was formerly chair of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and at the Treasury Department. And today, in my capacity at the Kennedy School, I run this project called the Digital Assets Policy Project, and we're the sponsor of this workshop. We have Steve Derezinski and Colfax Selby as the instructors tonight, and they have done this before, and it's just been great. We've done it now a few times, and it's really been just a terrific way for people to learn how to do the basics, or if you know the basics, how to learn a little bit more. Steve has taught blockchain at MIT at some of their clubs and classes. And Colfax is a programmer who now works for a company called Privy. They're both really, really knowledgeable. And I hope you find this enjoyable and fun and helpful. We want to hear your reactions. So feel free to email us. You can email Eric or you can email me. You can find me in the directory. And I think I don't know, do we have a survey that we do, Eric? I can't remember. We should do a survey if we don't have one. In any event, I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Colfax because I don't want to waste any more time. But thanks again to Steve and Colfax and to Eric Nolan, who's put together all the arrangements. Sorry we can't offer you dinner, but we'll take a short break where hopefully you can get a snack. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Tim. Good to have the intro by Tim. As you mentioned, we've done this a bunch of times before. Previously, we've done it physically together. I wish we could be together and see you guys. It's obviously blockchain is very much an online activity. So we thought when the snow came, well, if we can't do it online, then it's not really going to work. So hopefully this all works out. We have to do some slight adjustments. In terms of the students' interactions with us, we have a WhatsApp group, and that's going to be central to the class. So we need you all to connect to that. And I see there's a lot of people that have already connected to it, but that's not really optional. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do that in order to get information to and from everybody for the participants in the class. And also, if you want to ask a question, feel free to post it in WhatsApp. You can also post them probably in the Zoom chat too, if that's easier for you. We'll monitor both, but the WhatsApp one, I really like using WhatsApp in classes because it stays around after the class closes, after the Zoom session closes, so you can refer back to it. And we'll be posting slides and other stuff to that WhatsApp channel after the class as well. So, I know that probably all of you are one person sitting in front of one Zoom session, which is fine, but I'm curious, is there anybody out there, and you can ping to WhatsApp or post in the chat. Is there anybody who's watching it together with someone else? Any chance anybody is together with like a couple of people, on this wonderful snow day? I see there's a question about how to connect to WhatsApp. There's a QR code on the slide here that you should be able to just use your phone and connect with. And if you don't have the WhatsApp app on your phone, you're gonna have to download that. Sorry.
Steven, there's another question in WhatsApp. Somebody says it's a little hard to hear you.
Oh, okay.
So maybe if you can either speak up a little bit, or if the Zoom settings for your incoming mic or something, if you could turn that up.
I guess volume doesn't help. Let's see if I can change my settings. Thank you for that feedback. That's good. Microphone. Here we go. Input volume. How's that? Is that a little better? Is that a little louder?
That sounds better to me. Yeah.
Okay. Let me crank it up a little more. I don't want to saturate your ears too much, but thank you for that. That's great. Okay. So it doesn't sound like anybody is doubled up. But if you are, that's great. I mean, we can manage that. But as long as it's one person, one Zoom session, that's fine. We can move forward with that. So, okay. So, today I want to talk to you about blockchain and kind of a how-to basis. I've been, before we do that, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm told that I should say this is for educational purposes only. We're going to talk about finances. You guys are going to touch real money and move real money around in a cryptographic sense. But this is just, and it's a very small amount of money, but it's just for educational purposes only. So, Just a quick note about me. I have my undergraduate in mechanical engineering in robotics, and I got an MBA from Sloan as a Sloan fellow. I do a lot of new venture creation, and I do a lot of technology to market. And I prefer to kind of do the technology push. I know classically people are like, you got to do market pull. It's a lot easier, but I prefer to do it the other way around because you find a lot more crazy transformative changes. And I founded a Kendall Square co-founder where we've launched a bunch of companies. In terms of my blockchain and crypto experience, I've been the CTO and co-founder of a company that did a $300 million token offering. And I've taught blockchain ventures, the full class at MIT at the Media Lab from 2018 to 2020. Went on to teach it at Babson. And actually what you're seeing today is kind of one semester class, once a week is 14 lectures. And we did a whole bunch of surveys and sort of condensed that down to the top 3 lectures and then condensed that down to 1 lecture. So hopefully you're getting the best of what the students said was the best content from all the classes. So, and also one thing I like to point out is that doesn't really come out in my background, but I really love thinking about sort of high level theory and then drilling it down to like, how do you turn the wrench? Like, how does this actually work? And then going back up again to the theory and coming back down again. So when we go through this crypto blockchain and cryptocurrency discussion, just keep that in mind. I'm happy to answer questions at all levels and everywhere in between. And this is really like a how-to workshop. I do want to talk a little bit about theory, but then I want to dive into having you guys get your hands dirty and get your hands on the cryptocurrency and start to do some things with it. So, okay. So I want to start with sort of setting the context. You guys all know about the web. Without the web, there would be no cryptocurrency. So that forms the basis of what we're talking about. And when the web first came out, or maybe you don't because you might be too young, but it was the Internet of Information. Information wants to be free. Just let information go and let's let everybody copy it. Of course, the downside of that was you couldn't really prove that you owned anything. And there's some quotes about from I think Mark Andreessen, who said, the advertising business model is really because we didn't know how to monetize, websites. It was really hard to figure out what was unique and stuff. So you have that as the baseline, and then built on top of that, you have the blockchain, which I call the Internet of Value, which solves this problem of uniqueness on the web, and also solves this problem of saying, well, okay, that's unique, but can you prove you own that? Yes, with blockchain, I can prove I own that unique piece of the web. And then can I transfer that ownership to somebody else? Yes, I can cryptographically transfer that ownership to someone else on the web, and I can prove that, and I can lock that into a decentralized chain to prove that forever to everybody. And I don't have to depend on any external authorities and stuff to actually do that. So built on top of the web, you have the Internet of Value, which provides uniqueness and provides transactionability. And then once you have an Internet of Value, I want to store assets in that. I want to store things like mortgages and stocks. But the most popular asset that everybody wants to talk about is currency. So on top of the blockchain is cryptocurrency, which is the Internet of Money. So the one asset that everybody likes to talk about is cash. So that's what seems to becomes the most popular component of cryptocurrency. So that's kind of the stacks that we're going to build on, and I just wanted you to be able to have that visual to see kind of what's happening in the details there. So okay, but one of the questions is always what actually is a blockchain, and to answer that, I want to go back to Bitcoin, which was the first blockchain. So a lot of times people used to say Bitcoin and blockchain kind of together and conflate those two, and that's because when Bitcoin first came out, it was in fact the first blockchain out there. So it sort of popularized the phrase of a blockchain, or created this, what is this blockchain? Why is it so cool, and why is it so valued? And right now what I'm showing is a picture as of May of 2025. This doesn't change that much, so I didn't update it, but there's 22,518 nodes that are all running their own full copy of the Bitcoin ledger, all the way back to when it was first formed in 2009. And as of June 2025, it's about 665 gigabytes. So could you, with a laptop with a free, like roughly terabyte of space, run a Bitcoin node? Yes, you could. You could go to bitcoin.org and download the software and run a node. It would take a little while for it to get all synchronized, but you could have a node. What does that provide you? It provides you your own copy of the entire database, and it allows you to do transactions directly with it. It does, excuse me, also require that you maintain it synchronized with the rest of the 22,500 nodes. And then the same thing is true for Ethereum. So Ethereum has 14,000 nodes as of May of last year, and it's roughly kind of in the same sort of heat zones. The Ethereum database is 2 terabytes, so that's a little bit bigger. But you could, if you had a laptop and you wanted to go to ethereum.org, you could download the software and run a node for that as well. Now, I want to be clear, this is not mining, which is what Bitcoin uses to prove the network. That's a whole other conversation. This is just simply a node. So once the miners figure out, do the really, really hard work, they pass along a little key. And that's, to prove that, hey, we get the winning for this block. And all of the nodes then confirm that key and then just lock that block into the chain of their copy of the 22,000 that's in Bitcoin. Ethereum doesn't use proof of work anymore, but it used to. So, okay. Okay, so just kind of going back to this sort of 3-layer cake, I want to go a little bit deeper. And since we know about the web, the next slide is not going to have the web on it, but you can assume that it's off the bottom of it, and go a little bit more complex, which is to show you kind of this bottom layer. I guess I should use my mouse for this. I keep using my hands, but I'm not with you face to face. This bottom layer is public Bitcoin chain, public Ethereum chain, and then others over here. And I have this chronologically shown kind of 2009 with the Bitcoin blockchain here, and built on top of the public blockchain is BTC protocols, and on top of that is smart contracts, and then on top of that are block explorers, the currency itself, and then a wallet. And the way you can think about this is that the internet's on the bottom coming up, and then humans are on the top. So if your humans are going to interact with each one of these chains, they're going to come from the top. So a human would have a wallet, and they would interact with the currency and maybe some block explorers, and perhaps interact with smart contracts, but maybe and then as you get more and more technically savvy, you start to go further and further down this stack. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. The rest of the population is up here, and then super nerds that program blockchains are down here. And then the same thing is true with Ethereum. As you move up the chain here, or up the stack, you get to the Ethereum protocol, and you get up to smart contracts and block explorers, the actual Ethereum currency, and then decentralized applications, which is what dApps stand for. And those are applications built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. There used to not be any applications on the Bitcoin chain. That's changed recently. And the way I always like to tell people is that I think of Bitcoin as the Dow 30, and I think of Ethereum as the NASDAQ. So Bitcoin is more like buy and hold, kind of stable, Dow 30 industrials, and Ethereum is more like NASDAQ, where there's constant innovation, constant crazy stuff going on, layer 2s happening on top of it, new dApps coming out, custom tokens being launched, new wallets happening, all kinds of things happening there. And then on the right here, I've got just additional public and private blockchains. So as soon as Bitcoin and Ethereum come out, the obvious thing for an enterprise to do is to say, hey, can we take the great benefits of the technology and bring it in-house? So IBM's Hyperledger and some other entities we're working on, perhaps that's a good idea to use some things in-house. We're not going to talk about a lot of stuff, but I wanted to again give you this landscape to kind of see where you are, and you'll get a copy of these slides after today's session. In terms of the talk today, we're going to focus on this box. So we're going to look at block explorers. We're going to focus on Ethereum. I should mention also that Ethereum uses something called the Ethereum virtual machine, or EVM. And so there's a phrase that says, is this chain EVM compatible? Which means, can I use the same sort of smart contracts from chain to chain, and can I interact with it? And there's a number of EVM compatible chains, and I don't even know how many there are at this point, but Ethereum is the main EVM compatible chain, and we're going to be using Arbitrum 1 today, which is a layer 2 that's also EVM compatible. So as long as you have kind of an EVM compatible chain, you're going to stay in this turf and be able to interact with a lot of this stuff, or leverage a lot of the development benefits that have happened in this block. Before I dive in, were there any questions in there? Let's see. Colfax, have you seen any questions come up so far?
Nope, nothing.
Okay, perfect. Great. Okay. If you guys have questions that pop up, I guess the easiest thing to do is post them in the chat, or probably post them in WhatsApp. So, okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get wallets. Everybody's going to get a wallet. And I realized when I was reviewing these slides earlier that I talk about wallets for Web 3.0, and this is the first time I talk about Web 3.0. If you don't know what Web 3.0, it's kind of like Web 2.0 is what everybody knows and loves today in terms of Instagram and TikTok and everything else. And Web 3.0 is basically the thing I was describing first, which is like building blockchain on top of the existing web. So, yes, Colfax.
Steve, I'll just jump in, yeah, with a couple of questions that we went through in the chat.
Yeah.
Just to confirm with you. One is that um, just confirming this will be recorded and we'll share out the recording with everybody, correct?
Yep.
Sounds good. And then we'll also share a copy of the slides.
Yes. Those will be in the WhatsApp group. We'll put links to the Google Documents in the WhatsApp group after the session's over with. So that's why it's really important that you join WhatsApp.
Awesome.
But I assume someone asked that question in WhatsApp. So, okay. So in terms of wallets for blockchain and EVM chains and Web 3.0, those are all, I'm going to use those all the same today. There are software wallets and there are hardware wallets. In terms of hardware wallets, there's USB key wallets. This is a Ledger Nano S wallet. I haven't even opened it yet. It's still in its shrink wrap. And you can see from the yeah, you can see from the little picture that there's a oh, I guess it disappeared. There's a little small interface on the front of this. So you plug it in and it stores your private key, and it has a small UI on it that allows you to sort of approve transactions and stuff. There's some from Ledger, Tether, Grid Plus. There's a ton of other ones that allow you to interact with it. Those are interesting and those are important as you get more bigger and bigger assets coming up. But for today, I want to focus on sort of software wallets only. So there are custody and non-custody software wallets. A custody or an exchange wallet is centralized. They're easy to use. They have been hacked in the past, of course. And you typically have like customer service to recover funds or passwords. So Coinbase or Binance accounts. Centralized wallets are something that you guys already know. You have a bank account, you have a brokerage account, you call customer service. You know, if something went wrong, they have insurance and they have people to figure it out for you. That's fine and good, but not interesting for cryptocurrency because it's like everything else that you've ever done. If we turn over to non-custody or self-custody wallet, that's where things get interesting. That's where things get new. And I don't know of too many places that have a similarity to this, but they are decentralized. They're more difficult to use, but we're going to learn how to use them today. And they are subject to social engineering attacks and phishing attacks, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. And some examples are MetaMask, Tahoe.xyz. I think they've changed their name, but that's what they used to be. And Privy.io. So, you know, if you have questions about Privy, you can talk to Dr. Colfax about that. I wanted to make a quick note about Coinbase wallets because we get this question a lot. Coinbase offers both a wallet and an account. So they offer kind of a centralized wallet and a decentralized wallet. They claim their wallet is self-custody, but it's closed source, so we don't really know if it is or not. And then for both, you have to agree to their terms of use. And I did want to just show you the logos of Coinbase on this slide because I've been confused multiple times whenever I pull it up. Like, am I getting the centralized account or using the wallet? If you'll notice, they look almost exactly the same. One has a C, one has a stop in it. So anyways, wanted to just take a minute to mention that because that's a common issue that we've run across. Okay. Now let's see. Maybe by show of hands, is there anybody that has done any kind of cryptocurrency or cryptography or math background? I want to do a quick cryptographic intermission. I don't want to scare anybody into think there's heavy math or anything, but there's some really, really critical things that you need to understand why this actually works. And it's fine because I know this is Harvard Kennedy School. So, but you never know. There could be some super nerds in there. Rondell, are you a cryptographer? Oh, maybe.
I worked in cybersecurity, so a lot of cryptographic keys, etc. And
Okay.
there's a little bit of background there.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else have a little? This is kind of math nerdy, so let me dive into it and feel free to post stuff into WhatsApp and stuff. So every wallet requires a private key, and I'm talking about decentralized software wallets now, self-custody wallets. So they require a private key. I mean, I guess this applies for a lot of them, but really for the purposes of this talk, we just want to focus on software self-custody keys. And each private key creates a public key, but core to that is that it's a one-way math function. So a one-way math function means that going from the private key to the public key, super easy, trivially easy. Going from the public key to the private key, virtually impossible. Like, maybe it will never happen in the time that the universe is around, kind of thing. And I can give you an example. My favorite example of one-way math function is prime factorization of a number. So if I give you a number like 12, you say, okay, well, 12 is 4 times 3, and 4 is 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 times 3. Those are all prime factors of the number 12. So I've factored that number, right? Trivially easy for me to do that small number. But if I take a very large prime number and I take another very large prime number and I multiply those two together, the product that I get, if I give that to you and I say, this is the product of two prime numbers, can you find the root of those? It turns out that it takes, gigantic computers forever to solve that problem. So, but how long does it take for me to take two prime numbers and multiply them together, right? I could do that with my watch practically. I mean, it's trivially simple, but going the other direction is like monumentally impossible. And this is really, really key to how you secure your funds and how this all works. So if I'm armed with a private key and a public key, I can publish my public key everywhere. I can give it out to everybody. I can say, this is my account, deposit funds in here. And then with my private key, I can prove to the world that I own that account. And I can cryptographically prove to the world that I can sign transactions that show that I'm the only one that has the private key access to that account. So I can prove that the ownership of that, prove transfer of that. I can prove a lot of things, and I can prove it to anybody that's on the blockchain, which is a pretty powerful concept if you think about it. So with that one-way math function, what I want to have is a private key. So the private key for this example, and if obviously this private key has no money in it, otherwise it would be stolen immediately. Don't show this private key. That's the private key that you would typically get. Now that private key is like ridiculous. And if you had to write it down, the chances of the O becoming a 0 or an O, or not sure which is which, or a B becoming a 6 is very high. So what they did in the world of Ethereum and BIP 339 standard is they converted that complex private key into a series of 12 words taken from a 250,000 word English dictionary. So the spelling and the sequence of those words is really critical. And that becomes a mnemonic phrase, this mnemonic phrase. And by knowing and remembering that or writing it down, that becomes the core to securing your funds. So we're going to do this in a little bit, but I wanted to kind of mention the importance of these 12 words and how critical that is. Colfax, did you have something you wanted to?
Yep, there's a question in the chat here that I just want to speak out. Somebody asked if crypto wallets have concerns with quantum computing.
Yes, they do. Very good question. Ethereum has been working on and I think the founder of Ethereum has a desire to push towards getting quantum safe stuff. I have an entire blog post on this, so I'll try and answer it succinctly, but I'm happy to talk offline in a lot more depth on it. Several years ago, the National Institutes of Standards said we need to have a way to have quantum safe encryption. So they've developed and had a huge competition to figure out what is quantum safe encryption and what are the algorithms that are going to work. The aha moment for me was realizing that the laptops that you guys are probably all watching this on can actually run quantum safe encryption. So you can use an algorithm on your laptop that is so complex that not even quantum computers can break it. And that sort of understanding took a little leap. Like, I thought quantum computers needed to have quantum computers in order to create quantum encryption. No. A laptop can create an encryption algorithm that's sufficiently hard that a quantum computer can't break it. So the adoption of those quantum safe algorithms is something that the NIST group is working on to push out. And there's a number of programs that are trying to get to that point. I know there's some investors that have invested in a company that's trying to put quantum safe encryption on Bitcoin. And a lot of the Bitcoin core developers don't feel that quantum safe encryption is really a thing to worry about. I don't know why. I worry about it. So if you do have a quantum computer that's really fast, you could actually potentially break some of the current levels of encryption that's there right now. So yes, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that question. Happy to chat more about it later and send you my blog post on kind of the algorithms that are currently out there and being evaluated for quantum safe encryption. So, okay, let's keep going. The spelling of these 12 words is critical, and the sequence of them is critical. And if you guys have a piece of paper and a pencil right now, usually if we were in class, I would hand out a 3x5 card, and you can write them all down. In a second, we're going to generate, we're going to use MetaMask. We're going to generate the wallets, and you're going to write down all these words. But I want to make it clear that these 12 words you don't want to share with anybody. And if you don't know if they've leaked or not, that's a challenge too, right? Because if somebody knows the words and your funds are still there, well, maybe it's been leaked. So it's a little bit tricky. So the primary point of a lot of this is that you are in control of your secret phrase. And if you lose it, then there's no customer service to call. So that's the downside of self-custody, right? Is that you're the one that's responsible for it. Now you could get a hardware key to help you kind of manage all this stuff properly. So, but let's keep going and let's start making a wallet and doing stuff. There's the private key. Okay, and one other quick thing, just so that you visually see it. This is the private key that converts to a public key. But then what we do is we actually take just the last 40 characters, and it's not directly the last 40 characters, that public key, and that becomes what's called the EOA address. And EOA stands for externally owned account, which means a human owns it as opposed to a smart contract and some other things. So this I believe these numbers actually work correctly. If you had this private key, if you had those 12 words, you generate those private keys, which would generate this public key, and then that gets simplified into an externally owned address or externally owned account address that you then becomes the component online that you use to kind of do transactions on blockchains. So, as an example, one of the block explorers out there is called Etherscan. And if I take this externally owned address and put it into Etherscan, you'll see that it has no money in it, but it's a way to kind of view stuff. And this is back when ETH was $2,100, so should have sold it then, right? Okay, so that I just wanted to do a little cryptographic intermission so you understand sort of the core reason behind why a lot of this stuff works. And then next step, we're going to create wallets ourselves. But let me pause there and see if there are any questions popping up. Colfax?
No new questions.
Awesome. Good. Let's get everybody to create a wallet. Does the other thing I'm curious about is, does everybody have I assume everybody's on a laptop, but maybe if anybody's on just a cell phone or only wants to use a cell phone, if you can ping post in WhatsApp or online in the chat if you want to use a cell phone. That we can certainly do it that way, but it just takes a little extra caution. We have instructions for laptops and cell phones in a little bit, so you should be able to do both of them. And this is an outline of what we're going to do in a second, so you don't have to do all this stuff right now. I just wanted to give you kind of the heads up of what the process is. We're going to get the MetaMask browser in your Chrome extensions, so hopefully you're all looking at this on Chrome, or we're going to download a mobile app, depending on if you have a cell phone or not. We're going to create a new wallet and set a password. And now the password in this instance is just a short something for you to remember, which allows the user of the phone or the laptop to access the private key. So it's not actually the deep private key. It's just kind of it's like your PIN code on your cell phone, basically. We're going to secure your wallet, and then we're going to switch to the Arbitrum One network. And then what I want you to do is to copy the externally owned account address that you'll generate and paste it into the Google form. So let's get started in that. So what I'd like you guys all to do is to go to metamask.io, and hopefully this is kind of where lots and lots of questions pop up.
Steve, actually, before we get deeply into this, there is a question in the chat about dApps. Is it easy for you to see the chat, or would you like me to read it?
No, go ahead.
Great. The question is, I'm wondering before we move on, can we have a super brief summary of what was said on the first part of the session to make sure those of us are on the same page around a DApp and some other terminology?
Okay. So let's see. The key terminology are wallets, which is just simply what we're going to create right now. Block Explorer, which is a way to kind of look at the blockchain from a web interface, and to look at the public blockchain and look at all of the transactions that are on the blockchain. A DApp is a decentralized application, which is basically like an application on the web. It just happens to interact with a wallet. Um, and they typically are supposed to be truly decentralized, but often they're not. I don't know. How would you define DApp, Colfax?
It's really just like an application that runs on the blockchain, as opposed to like, for example, if you're using like Google Gmail, like Gmail, the application runs on a server that Google controls. But like a DApp actually is not running on some server that's either hosted by like Google or Amazon or anything like that. It's actually running on the Ethereum blockchain, basically, or another blockchain. And so it's sort of just like a way, it's like you can think of it as like a server that's decentralized and shared that programs can run on.
Right. So the tricky part is a DApp is going to have it's going to look almost exactly like a Web 2.0 interface, like Google Gmail, but you're going to have your wallet connected to that. So in terms of user authentication, it's going to be the wallet that connects to and does the transactions for you on the application. Behind the scenes, the thing that I think is a little bit tricky is that there is actually a centralized server that's usually doing the web front end, and then it interacts with the smart contracts that are decentralized on the blockchain. So it's technically a decentralized application, but a lot of components of it can be highly centralized. So, okay. So that's the quick terminology I think that we used before. Please feel free to ping Colfax if you need a definition of some phrase that I've used that doesn't make sense to you. Okay. So I saw somebody said they were on an iPad. That's just like an iPhone, so you can follow along on the mobile side of things to get the app. I don't. Have you ever tried to use a MetaMask as a browser extension on an iPad?
I think it would work the same way that it does on a phone as an external, like a separate app.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I would follow the mobile screens,
Yeah.
not the laptop for an iPad.
Okay. So if everybody can download this metamask.io, that'd be great. I'm going to move along somewhat quickly. Please slow me down. If it's not, sometimes you have to stretch the screen for the laptop in order to see the add to Chrome bit, but you probably all know that already. Okay, so let's get installed. This is just the installation step. And then this is where you set a password. Or sorry, this is where we've got it doing the wallet setup itself. So you want to create a new wallet at this point. I always opt out of data sharing. You're welcome to do whatever you want. It's your device. And then this is where you just create a simple password. And again, this is just to access your private key on your device so that people that get access to your device can't access your private key without this password. And you do have to accept the terms and conditions on this. Okay, so then we get into securing your wallet, and this is where you're going to click start, and there's going to generate a random number behind the scenes that's going to create those 12 words. So when you click start and kind of move forward on the secret phrase, you're going to come to this page on the mobile and this page on the laptop. And this is the sequence of these things are critical. And this is where you need to stop and write down those 12 words. And I want to caution you all, and this is where being face-to-face would be really critical, because I'm sure some of you are picking your phone up right now and taking a picture of your secret 12 words. Does anybody know where the access to your photos go when you take a picture? I mean, if you've ever given access to your photos to Snapchat or TikTok or any of those other things, then they probably are leaking access. So if you take a picture of the 12 words out of convenience, you've also just kind of breached the security of your assets. So I mean, for purposes of today, if you're lazy, just recognize that it's no longer secure. So whatever few pennies that we toss around, you shouldn't put any more money in that wallet than that. So, but if we were physically together, I would pass out a piece of paper and you would write down these 12 words in order. And then the next step that comes in is they want you to confirm it. So they've given you those same 12 words, but they've scrambled them in the bottom, and you just have to select the right sequence. And that is just to confirm that you actually wrote down what the 12 words are, and not necessarily the spelling of the 12 words, etc. So I would just confirm that is all correct. And then at that point, you should have, we do want you to switch to the Arbitrum One network. After you sit next to that, you'll have your wallet created, and you can see the account number up here. But we do want you to change to the Arbitrum One network. All of the MetaMask always defaults to the main network, or the Ethereum main network. So we want you to change to the Arbitrum One network, because that's where we're going to do all the transactions online here. And this is how you actually select the Arbitrum One network, both on the laptop side as well as on the iPhone side of things, to select that network. And if it's not in your laptop or on your default on your phone or iPad, then you can ping Colfax. We'll have to figure out how that, why that is, or what changes we might need to make, or how we can add it to it. But it should be one of the main default ones within the network. Let me just pause here for a second.
Yep, a couple people are having trouble seeing their 12 words.
Seeing your 12 words? Okay.
And so I'm gonna start looking at, somebody asked in the WhatsApp chat around if it sounds like there's a new option for continuing with your Google account, which I wonder actually if this is MetaMask backing up your secret phrase to your Google account. So I'm gonna look into this.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody asked me to go back one step. Do you want me to go back to? And feel free to come off mute if somebody, and just chat with us here, since this is kind of the live interactive part of it. And I'm sure half of you are probably fine, and the other half of you are probably like, what the heck happened? So, whoever asked that question, if you want to come off mute and just
Yeah.
talk.
How do we switch to the network?
Yeah. So it's a little bit hidden. If you can see on the slide I have here, are you on a laptop or a mobile?
Laptop.
So on the laptop, it's right here. It's in a green square on the screen, but it's a drop down, and it shows the icon. You can see it a little bit better on the phone. It shows the Ethereum icon, which is sort of the Ethereum main network icon, and then the next screen should show you this drop down of Arbitrum One.
Yeah.
And are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, so you got Arbitrum. You can see Arbitrum One in your.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So just select that, and then I think what you can do is make sure whenever you get back into MetaMask that little Arbitrum One icon shows, and not the Ethereum mainnet. So we kind of, this is probably the number one, number two, and number three mistake that happens all the time, which is that, why can't I see my transaction? And it's like, oh, I'm on the Ethereum mainnet network. I'm not on the Arbitrum One network. So, and all of these networks, by the way, just to kind of tie back to what I was saying earlier, and if you missed the talk about EVM compatible networks, Ethereum is the primary one, but there's a lot of other networks that are all listed on this list that are EVM compatible. So your address, your wallet address will work, and your private key will work on all of those networks. So you can just change to any network and you will have a valid account on that network. You'll have no assets in it because it's a brand new wallet, but you can actually do transactions on it. So it can be very misleading as you're interacting with it to say, like, what happened? And you're like, well, you got to make sure you're on the right network. And I believe every time you open MetaMask, it defaults to Ethereum mainnet. So if you don't have any assets or anything on Ethereum mainnet, then it'll be like, well, this is a dead wallet. And then you select a different account and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's where all my transactions went. So, okay. We got more questions here.
Yeah, just a quick question for the folks who, just to respond to Arbitrum and Arbitrum One are the same. So, and then for the folks who didn't actually get to see a seed phrase, can one or two of you respond in the chat and just say if you logged in with the Google option? Because I'm pretty sure there's a new flow. Yes, you use Google. Okay. So
Uh,
it sounds like there's a new flow in MetaMask where they actually the secret phrase that Steve was talking about, what they'll do is they'll actually store that in like a secure location in your Google storage so that you can have a little bit of like a better experience around not having to write down this phrase. There's a trade-off of security here because now if your Google account gets compromised, just like Steve's saying about your photos, somebody possibly could get access to that secret phrase. It's not a problem for this class. As long as you get your address, you'll still be able to send the transaction, but it's just something to be aware of. And it's interesting to see that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. If it's possible for you to go back and not use Google, I would prefer that. Just because the really important point is that you store your own private key, and that makes it truly self-custody then, and they're not, you're truly holding your own key. Well, now if you're leveraging Google, then that's just sending your private key off to Google, right? So
I have one question.
shoot, Kumar.
So I've downloaded it, I created the account, and the page says on the mobile application also it says that you have add funds, and then there's on the top left corner account one, and then you have all the types of network which I'm able to see. I don't know how you reach to Arbitrum. Do I need to click on add funds and then move? How do we do it?
Hmm. Uh. Uh.
Are you on a phone or a desktop?
Yeah, I am on both, but you can tell me on phone if you want.
Here, I'll just share my screen actually, and I can show you a better
Yeah,
one.
please do that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Steve, do you mind if I
Yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
Cool. Alrighty.
And also, if you are having a problem and you can do a screenshot and send it to the WhatsApp group, that'll be helpful too. So
Cool.
for those of you who used Google to log in, if you can do a screenshot of your Google and post it to the WhatsApp group, that would be very handy. If you don't mind sharing your, what it looks like for you. I think there were some other comments about your screen doesn't look like my screen, so we'd love to get that as well. We can get it figured out.
Cool. So I'm sharing my screen here. I have the deck in the background. I've opened up my MetaMask extension. If you don't see the little MetaMask like Fox logo here, you might need to click this extensions button and find it here because it might not be pinned. And once you're here, you can see here there's this toggle here for Arbitrum. You probably might see it like this where it's Ethereum. And
Yes.
this is how you switch the network down here. The person asking, do you see this?
Yes, I saw Arbitrum and I clicked on Arbitrum.
Perfect. Great. So now you're
So
on the Arbitrum network.
yeah, but it says that again, fund your wallet, add funds, and that's it.
So we'll be sending out some funds here shortly.
Okay.
And so yeah, just sit tight just for another couple minutes and we'll share how to receive funds.
Hopefully you're seeing $0 in your fund or 0 tokens in your fund. There should be brand new funds with nothing else on them, right? So
Yes, it's 0. So after this, we'll get that 12 codes which you shared earlier. I mean,
did you log in with Google or did you do
Google,
Yeah.
through
So you're
Google.
not going to get the 12 words if you logged in with Google. So please do take screenshots of whatever you've got there and send it to us so we can take a little better view of what's happening. So
Okay, I'll share right away.
And for those that logged in with Google, if you'd like to try it without Google to get your seed phrase, you can either delete the app, I believe, or delete the Chrome extension and start the process over. And just click create a new wallet and then click the seed phrase option instead of Google.
Okay.
all right, let me go back to sharing again. Is this sharing?
Yep.
Okay. Kumar, do you still have a question?
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If you could just put your hand down, that'd be great. Or maybe I need to answer it. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. The next step we're going to go to is oh yeah, we gotta paste the Google form in the WhatsApp group, so maybe Colfax can take care of that. I want everybody to finish this up, and then we're going to have a short break, where people can, do a little quick bio break and stuff. But after the break, we're going to do a lot of stuff with this wallet and with this address. So I want to make sure everybody has got their wallet and they can do interactions with it. So if it says add funds, that's fine. There should be no funds in it. But we're going to interact with some other do some other activities afterwards. So does everybody still working on getting their wallet and getting it set up? Does anybody have a wallet? So right here, you can see on the right side with the mobile app, you can see where there's the account 1 and there's that 0x4E6. That's actually the public address of this EOA account. And you can click on that copy button in order to copy the address itself and then just paste it into the wallet. And if you want, you're welcome to paste it into the WhatsApp group as well, just to show us that you in fact got a real address. And if anybody that did the Google thing, if anybody has gone back to redo it without Google, that'd be very interesting to know too.
Cool. And I'm noticing on my MetaMask, it looks like they rolled out a software update that changes where the address copying button is. So I'm going to
Really?
share my screen. Yes.
Okay, let's do that again. All right.
I'm going to share my screen again and just do a quick demo. And then we can also try and do that on mobile too, but it should be pretty similar. I'll check. So I'm sharing my screen here.
I think I'm
Right,
just
it
going to
looks
have
like
to complain to AI about how fast they're doing software updates now, like
I know, right?
we'd have to-
So
yeah, go ahead.
as you can see here, I'm here on MetaMask. And so what I'm going to do here is I'll click receive. And here, unfortunately, you need to actually search for Arbitrum again. But if you type in Arbitrum here, you can copy your address. So mine is 0xD988.
That's the first part of it.
Yep, that's the first part of it, not the whole thing. And now I've copied my address here. I'm seeing some people put their address in the chat itself in WhatsApp. If you could please also ideally submit it in the form. You don't need to put it in the chat, but if you put it in the chat, could you please also submit it in the form? That'd be great.
Yeah, I asked people to just post it in the chat, just to kind of show to us that they're complete. So that's good.
Oh, sounds good.
I guess
Yeah.
the other question is, are there people that don't have an address yet that are having some challenges to find their wallet address? Somebody said they couldn't find where it was. Is that because of, you just showed everybody? Yeah, right. Okay. And is there anybody else having challenges? Okay. Good.
I only demoed desktop. Mobile should be similar, but if anybody has trouble on mobile, let me know and I'll see if I can share my screen.
Okay, so I think we could probably do a short break here. I'll leave this screen up so people can post their wallet address to the WhatsApp group. And I think, what do you think, Colfax? You think like 6:30, so like 7-minute break kind of thing? Is that enough time?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I'll be here throughout the break. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to just pop on or pop like on audio and I can talk you through it or send a message in the chat.
And after the break, well, hopefully during the break, you'll get some funds in your all of your wallets. Depending on, you have to put them in the Google form in order to get funds. How about that? That's a good incentive. So, and then after the break, we're going to do some fun stuff with all the wallets. So I'll be back at 6:30. So, and feel free to ping stuff if you have any questions.
Sounds great. Thanks. I see another question about finding the address, so I'm going to share my screen again. In order to get your address, you open up your MetaMask extension here. If you don't see it here, you might need to check your extensions here, and it would be in this list. So you can click that. And then what you'll be doing is you'll click the receive button here. And then type in Arbitrum. And you can copy this address. Hi, Dana.
Hi, thanks so much for taking my question. I think that I'm on the lower age of the technology capability spectrum here
Not
because
a
I was the
worry at
person who
all.
was asking broad questions. So I have lots of questions because I think this class is a little bit ahead of me, but or maybe a little bit. But my question really is on the privacy considerations.
Yep.
So can you just share if I sign up for this wallet? I, I, so I'm a privacy person. I always don't let I say no to companies
Yeah.
whenever they ask me for for cookies and all of that. Does this mean I should really not be participating in a digital wallet or in this?
Let me answer
Um,
that, Diana. If you can hold that question for the second half, I've got a whole section on
okay.
privacy and security. So hopefully you're able to engage, but you can certainly wait if you don't feel comfortable with the way that the stuff is disclosing and everything else. But
No,
to
I just wanted to understand, does that mean that my information is it kind of like using ChatGPT and my information is out there for everybody and or is it?
So it's a good question. And I guess I'll answer it now, but I'll answer it again in a minute, which is that it's radically transparent but pseudonymous. So that means that public address can't be tied to you, but that public address, the transactions and the account information and the balance of that public address is visible to the world. So it's a weird combination of not totally private, but private enough. If you choose to disclose that you own that address, then you choose to disclose that. But if you want to keep that address private, then all the transactions and stuff are public, but they don't necessarily know who did all those transactions. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
That does make sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think for this class, it'll be minimal amounts of dollars and minimal amounts of transactions. So you can just delete it when we're done, and then nobody has to worry. So
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
Hi, Colfax.
Hey there.
Hi. When you have a second, could you please post the Google form?
Yes, I'll post it right here. Sorry about that. I was
No worries. Thank you. I was trying to send it from my phone to my computer, but it's not working.
yeah, no worries. Thanks.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I was just taking a look at the mobile app. And it looks like there's a section in the middle that says popular networks. It used to be up on the top left as we had on the screens, but it looks like they moved it down to the middle of the screen. When you click on account one, if that's your account, it just gives you the number, and you can actually get a QR code of your wallet address as well. But if you look further down, it says popular networks, and that's where you can click down and select. And mine says Arbitrum. I think some say Arbitrum 1. And then when you select that in the further down, it should put you onto Arbitrum network. And it looks like somebody got 19 cents. All right. Does anybody else have any funding in their account?
So as you are noticing, I've been sending out some funds to everybody. So there's, I'll repeat this when everybody's back. But yes, Maria, I'm glad to see you got 19 cents. You got 19 cents of Ether on the Arbitrum network, which is a token that you basically need to pay to do a transaction on the network. And then if you check again, you should also have $2 of another token called DAI, DAI, which is functionally like a digital dollar. And so I haven't processed everybody yet, but I've processed the first 20 submitters. So if you submitted more recently, I'll send you out some right now, Bonnie, so sit tight. Maria has the DAI too. This is great. Very exciting.
So whoever got funding wants to share their address either in the WhatsApp chat or in the Zoom chat, and not the first person who asked the question about privacy, because whoever shares is going to be made public. So if you don't mind. Okay, so one thing that that everyone can do before we dive into this too far, is if you have your wallet. Sorry, I'm just trying to get, here we go. If you have your wallet, you can go to arbiscan.io. Let me just go to the raw arbiscan.io. And this is the block explorer for Arbitrum 1 or Arbitrum. And from here, we'll grab Colfax's wallet, right? Since Colfax and I were doing transactions prior to the class. And if you just paste your wallet up into this search box, it will give you kind of the transactions that are happening here. So you can see, so now I don't know anything about this. I can pretend like I don't know anything about this person, but except for their address. And this, without logging in, I can just type in their address here and I can see that they have $89.91 in their wallet, and they've been dispersing ETH as of 23 seconds ago to a whole bunch of different addresses. And so those are the actual live transactions. So to the question about privacy and stuff, if I don't know who this address is, all I can see is the interactions that they've had with other things and when they did those interactions, but I don't necessarily know who they are. And that was a decision by the architects of blockchain to say, we want to enable a lot of transactions, but we don't want to force people to have to disclose exactly who they are, because we want privacy, but we want accountability. So it's an interesting design decision by the blockchain people to kind of allow this to happen. So if you go to arbiscan.io, you can just copy your wallet address and paste it up in the top, and then you can look at the transactions, and hopefully you'll see, the money coming in from Colfax from this address, actually. So you should see transactions that show that where the funding came from at this level. Okay. So does everybody have a wallet and has been able to do it? Stuti, go ahead. Take yourself off mute and let us know.
Quick question. So it'll be helpful for us to maybe know also what the difference between tokens and the other thing is,
Yeah.
and
So
what the functionality of each of those is.
yeah. So a token is a very specific ERC20. An ERC20 is a standard that defines it's its own entity, it's its own asset basically. So and typically when you first launch a token, it has no value. So anybody can launch an infinite amount of tokens and send them around. It does require transaction fees in order to send the tokens around, and those transaction fees are paid in what's called the native currency of the network. So for Arbitrum 1, it's Arbitrum ETH. That's the native currency of Arbitrum 1. For Ethereum, the native currency is Ethereum. Unfortunately, it's called the Ethereum blockchain, and the Ethereum is the native currency. And that is what you need to have in order to pay what's called gas fees, which are also known as transaction fees. Those are the two major ones at this stage. I mean, there's a ton of other complexities and NFTs that are a different thing altogether. So the token is an ERC20 and NFT is an ERC721. And then there's a bunch of other items that come up on that. So does that help? I mean, hopefully those are just the two things that we're dealing with right now. I mean, we'd spend all day if we got all the complexity stuff. So, all right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Rondell, how about you?
Yeah, I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole on this one, but these transaction fees, where do those go? Because since the blockchain isn't owned by an individual, or perhaps it is, who collects the transaction fees? Where does that go? Who's the market maker? What does that look like?
Is that because you want to be a transaction owner? Is that?
I mean, that would be nice. It sounds like a great situation.
Yeah, I mean, it goes basically to confirming a lot of the transactions, and it goes to the proof of stake holders. So the people, so previously in the Bitcoin world, there's proof of work. So there's a huge pool of money that goes to pay off all the blocks that get confirmed. And in the world of Ethereum, it's proof of stake, which means we don't have the power challenges, but we do have people that are putting up assets that get paid to confirm all the transactions and to sort of stand behind the transactions. So if you think about proof of work, ultimately it's you spend money to buy energy to do a big math problem. So the people at Ethereum said, why are we doing all this, wasting all this time, burning all this energy? I mean, it ultimately costs money to burn the energy to prove out the math problem. Why don't we just take the money directly and stick it on chain and put it at risk? So if you defraud the network, all of that money gets pulled away. Well, somebody has to have a benefit for putting that money. If they're, the good actors have to have a benefit. So when you put your stake up there, you get a percentage of that network transaction fee. So you can do what's called staking your Ethereum if you want to help the network security. So yes, if you get a Coinbase account, you can look into staking your Ethereum and you can enjoy some of that transaction fee. More, Colfax, tell us more. Your hand is raised.
You did a great job with that. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. I'm just going to share my screen again and show everybody how to see their assets. I think most people have already seen them, so you're all experts. But I'll just make sure everybody's fully up to speed.
Awesome.
So here I am again, MetaMask extension. And an important thing here is make sure you're on the Arbitrum network again. So you'll come down here and click Arbitrum. Arbitrum and Arbitrum 1 are the same. And you can see here in my wallet, it'll look a little bit different from yours since I have sort of the source funds that I'm sending out to everybody. But I have some DAI, which you should have 2 of. And then you should have some Ethereum too, which you should have I think 0.0001 of. And so you should see this right here. If you don't see any funds, I would make sure you're on the Arbitrum network. And if you need any help, feel free to just put a message in the chat and I can walk you through it.
Awesome. Any other questions before we move on? Let's see.
There is another question here. I'm just going to read this out loud. So Arbitrum is the network that our wallet is on. And with our wallet, there is 0.19 ETH or 19 cents of the Ethereum token and $2 of stablecoins. Yeah, high level, that is true. So it's not 0.19 ETH, it's 19 cents worth of ETH, which happens to be 0.0001 ETH. If it was 0.19 ETH, that would be a lot more, since ETH's worth around like $1,800 right now. And then the other token is actually, they call it like pegged to $1. But yeah, the other token always equals $1. So 1 ETH equals like whatever the market says the price is. Right now it's about $1,800. And then the DAI token, each one of those does equal $1, and you have 2 of those. That's worth $2.
Yeah, so thanks, Colfax. The reason why you have those 2 things in your wallet right now is, number one, you need to have the currency of the network in order to do transactions. So you need to have some amount of Arbitrum ETH in order to kind of affect a transaction. If you have nothing, every transaction will fail. Well, just about every transaction will fail. And then we wanted you to have like real money in your account, even though it's only $2, so you can see that, you know, we're actually transacting real funds. Now, one question we often get is, how did that funds get there? To be honest, it was a bit of a pain, because we got funds from your institution, and then that had to go into a bank account, which then had to go into Coinbase bank account, which then had to go from that, or Coinbase online account, which then had to go from that Coinbase wallet into my wallet, which then went to Colfax's wallet. So, you know, all of those transactions took a little while, of course, to get out into the crypto world. But now that they're here, they're much easier to transact with. So let's see. Is everybody up and running on all this stuff? Somebody's not seeing anything yet, but okay. Okay. So let's keep going with the next phase. And if you guys have specific questions, if you want to just sneak them over to Colfax while we continue to chat here. I did talk about public block explorers. So we did talk about Arbiscan, and you can copy and paste your wallet address to that to see kind of what the public sees in your wallet. So if you have your Chrome browser up and you pull down the MetaMask, that's a private view of what's in your wallet. And then if you compare that to that same wallet address through arbiscan.io, you can see all the transactions, and you'll see that pretty much they're the same. Like, the public can see exactly what you can see. Now, in your MetaMask, you can give it names, and you can do a lot of other private things that are a little more advanced. But the point is that all of the transactions that are in your private, you know, the wallet that you see, other people can see. And you can take that same address and post it to etherscan.io, which is basically the wallet's address on the main Ethernet, and you should see 0 funds and 0 tokens and nothing in that. So you would have to actually put in Ethereum into that wallet in order to do transactions on that main network. Every chain has its own block explorer, and it's kind of like the Web 2 interface to the blockchain world, so you can just kind of see what's happening there, see what's going on. So this is an example of Etherscan for mainnet and arbiscan.io for the Arbitrum chain, or the Arbitrum 1 chain. You've seen this already, so okay. One quick side note on EVM addresses, which is the Ethereum virtual machine addresses, which is all the addresses that you guys have. You'll notice that this address, this 0x072 yada 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 with the 40 characters, is the same, looks the same as this 0x6b yada yada yada. That's also 40 characters. This is another source of a lot of confusion, which is that the addresses look exactly the same as a contract. The only way that anybody knows the difference is if you cut and paste it into a block explorer, and it goes and tells you what that address is. This, since I have it in I copied the page from a block explorer, I happen to know this is an externally owned account or address, and it's controlled by a public-private pair that we just did. Now, not outside of this class, or outside of the scope of this class, is, you know, launching your own smart contract and launching it on chain. Once you launch a smart contract, that smart contract also ends up with an address that looks remarkably similar. And if you take that address and post it into a block explorer, you'll see that it's actually it'll tell you it's a contract, and it'll tell you, you know, this is the maker contract from, you know, in a token contract. And you can look at this. A lot of times you can look at the source code through the block explorer as well. So I just wanted to mention that, because, you know, you might get some address and you might say, oh, this is somebody's wallet address, but it's actually a smart contract, and you don't know until you get into a block explorer. So Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we are we ready to transfer tokens, Colfax?
I think so. Before we do, if anybody doesn't have any funds yet in their wallet or is having trouble with their wallet, just post in the chat, please.
Okay, so the next phase we want to do is to be able to send like 50 cents or 75 cents to someone else. And typically what we do when we're actually in class together is that people with phones can easily just pick up their phones and use a QR code to kind of scan other people's addresses. But I noticed that a lot of people posted them to WhatsApp. So if you can go back into WhatsApp and post your Zoom ID and address, and then let's see if we can pair up and try and send some funds to other people. So let's see. I don't think I have. Let's see what's the best way to do this. This is one of those snow issues, snow day issues. Maybe we'll have to do this in a centralized way. What do you think, Colfax? Maybe what you can do is try and send 50 cents back to the address that sent it to you. Let's try that.
Yeah, why don't we try that? I think that's a good idea.
Because the address that sent it to you was what? Actually, that's if you go to arbiscan.io, this is a good advanced, not advanced, but somewhat advanced. If you go to arbiscan.io and put your wallet address in there, and then you look at it, or if you look in MetaMask, you should see the transaction that gave you that, and you should see where it came from. And then you could actually just send it back to that address. And yes, it should cost you some small amount of transaction fee in order to send a token back. So does anyone want to be brave enough to volunteer and do it live or send funds live? Has anyone been able to do that yet? That is willing to share their wallet address? Let the deal start. Yes, if you transfer me 99 cents, I'll transfer you $2. That sounds like a great deal. How do we make money? Volume.
Why don't I actually share my screen? I'll walk through sending a transaction.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Great. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Again, I'll tell you what, the person who's looking for 99 cents and transfer $2 back sounds a little suspicious, but since you are in the chat, I will go ahead and send you 99 cents as you request. So I am looking here at my my MetaMask. So I'm going to go ahead and send you 99 cents at your request of DAI. So I went here and I just clicked this asset that I want to send. I could also send some Ethereum, but right now we're referring to Ethereum as the primary, like the gas token, or what we're going to pay to be able to do the transaction. So we're going to focus on sending something that's actually like stable and something, say, you could like buy a cup of coffee with, which here is DAI. And so I'm going to click here and I'm going to click the send button. And I'm going to paste in this address here. And I'm going to double check that it's the one in the chat. That's great. And I'm going to send 99 cents worth of DAI. And so it's interesting here because the price of DAI is meant to equal $1. It does fluctuate slightly. And so you can actually see here that sending 0.99 DAI is actually only 0.98 cents. At any given point, and depending on rounding, there's actually 6 decimal places of DAI. It can be a little bit more or a little less than exactly $1, but generally speaking, it's equal to $1. And so I'm going to click continue. And this network fee, as I mentioned, is being paid in ETH, and it's on the Arbitrum network. I'm going to hit confirm. And so now what I can do next is I'll take my address. So I'm going to grab my address here again. And I'm going to go to Arbiscan.
Is it already there? Looks like it's already there. The last one there at the United.
And I'm typing in my address. Yeah, it's somewhere in here. But yeah, so this is my address. Now you can see actually that this is the transaction that I just sent. Sending to this person 99 cents. So I expect you to send back $2. I'm just kidding. You don't actually have to. But yes, this is an example of a transaction. 99 cents received. See, that's great.
Okay, so the next step is to have other people send it back to Colfax. So that's the question.
Perfect. So I'm gonna actually, I will go ahead and share my address here. And just to be clear, these are actually all class funds. So any funds I receive, I will be returning to the class host. And so if you send a little bit more, a little bit less, you know it's going there, but you're also welcome to keep the funds if you don't send them. You just sent me one die. So let's oh, you sent it to somebody else. So why don't we do that actually? That would be fun. If you'd like to either send money or be sent money, feel free to put your address in the chat, or you can actually reply and say who you're going to be sending money to as a sort of way to ad hoc pair. Or feel free to send to me and I'll let you know. I'll bring up my Arbiscan here and we can watch the funds flow in. Okay, fantastic. So it looks like somebody just sent me. Wow, you kept your word. You sent me back too. This is amazing. So this is the person. Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
All right, Shreya, did you have a comment?
I had a quick question. So when we're using one token to like send money, is the other one used as the gas money, or is it that always Ethereum is the only thing that's used as gas money, or only
It's
certain things get
yeah,
used?
it's always Ethereum for the Arbitrum One network. So any blockchain you find, there's going to be a defined network a currency or network. It's not a token, but it's the network currency that you need to have in order to pay for transaction fees. On Arbitrum One, it happens to be ETH. If you go to Polygon, which is another EVM chain, they have the POL token, and you need to have some of that in order to do transactions. So, and for Ethereum, if you need to have Ethereum to do transactions on that chain. So that makes sense.
And if we have to do, can we do transactions with just Ethereum as well? Like if we want to send someone Ethereum,
Yep.
then Ethereum is used as the gas money also, and we send Ethereum as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a little, I guess that's a little confusing because you're sending the gas token that you want, but that's actually very common because whenever you open a new wallet, you can't do anything with that wallet until you have some funds in it to pay the gas fees. So you typically will send the gas token as the first transaction.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, sure.
And sorry, one more question.
Yep.
Is the gas money that's sent with every transaction fixed, or is it like a percentage of the token money that we're sending?
So the gas fee is a function of the network congestion. So what you pay, and since we're using Arbitrum One, it's a layer 2. So just real quick on layer 2s, they sit on top of Ethereum, and what happens is they aggregate a whole bunch of transactions, and then they crunch them all together, and then just write one transaction onto Ethereum to sort of confirm all of those transactions. So in that sense, it's a lot cheaper. So each individual transaction on Arbitrum can be very minimal. And then it's just every so often they write it to Ethereum so that Ethereum is the layer 1 or the sort of ultimate source of truth. But then we can play games like we're doing right now and pay very little money on Arbitrum. So that's just sort of a background, but because on Arbitrum, when things get busy, the gas price goes up, and you can actually see it Is this is your screen, Shelby? Is it Colfax? There's a gas fee right in the upper left there. I don't know if you can see it next to the price of the ETH. So it'll show you kind of the current fee to pay for a transaction, or roughly the gas fees. And depending on, so we're just sending tokens around, which is very minimal amount of transaction. But if you're trying to compile and deploy a smart contract, that might cost like a ton of gas. And then you have to pay it, whatever the gas, the amount is per gas, you have to pay for that smart contract. So sometimes it costs $1,000 to deploy a smart contract. And that I mentioned the gas fees fluctuate, and that's to sort of maintain the network kind of congestion. So some people may know about congestion pricing. If you're driving into a city, and they crank up the price of the toll during rush hour to try and sort of spread out the usage. That's exactly what gas fees do. So if you want to do a transaction and you don't care if it's today or tomorrow or Sunday, Sunday morning is probably the lowest volume on there. So you might want to do the transaction on Sunday morning to minimize your fees. So,
and just to complete that here, you can actually see this exact transaction cost 0.00000689 ETH, which is the equivalent, which is like 0.001 cents.
Okay. So if I'm understanding it correctly, the gas fee is dependent on like the total number of transactions that are being done on that network at that particular time or day, right?
Yep. Actually, let me share. Let me just see if I can pull up a screen that I've typically. Let me see if this works first. I think I skipped over this screen in the past, but it makes sense right now. There's a oops. Wait a minute, hold on. So there's a very interesting page. Can you all see this? Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just the Ethereum. This is the Ethereum mainnet network that we're looking at right now. And on the left side over here are applications or people doing transactions. So this is the Tether token that's doing transactions. And these transactions are getting collected together into transactions that are then getting and this is actually going quite fast. Maybe I can show the Bitcoin. Can I just show the Bitcoin? Oh no, I guess they changed it. Oh no, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, Bitcoin. Okay, so this is the Bitcoin blockchain, which is a lot slower and maybe a lot easier to understand. All the transactions are coming over and they're getting aggregated together and sorted by how much people are willing to pay for gas. And then those transactions, if they're sufficiently high enough, they'll get priority to put placed on this bus. The bus is also known as a block, which I like to call a chain. It's a block that gets linked into the rest of the chain. And once it's full of transactions, then it gets locked in, and then it actually gets sent off to the blockchain, which means the miners go mine and make sure that they've got the right key for it, and then it gets locked into the chain. So what's happening is all these transactions are getting proposed and then locked onto the bus, and then they get confirmed on chain. So once they're in the chain, then that means they're permanent record. And so what you find is, and you can go to this website, it's txcity.io. Well, let's go back to Ethereum, which is a little more exciting because there's a lot more stuff happening here. But you can see that there's kind of a current market price for the gas fees right now. And if you want to wait longer, then you have to, you wait for the traffic to come down before your transaction gets processed. This also kind of highlights how if you do like a $10 million transaction, a lot of times people say, okay, when it's 5 transactions deep, then we'll confirm that it's actually done. Because there's some games that people can play where if it's only on the current block, then you may be able to pull it out and stuff like that. So the larger the transaction, typically on the receiving end, they'll say, okay, we're going to wait for several transactions to happen. I think you'll see this on Coinbase. If you try and do a large transaction, they'll say, okay, we're going to, we're going to wait for a few more blocks to get confirmed to make sure it's fully locked into the chain. So I can post this to the WhatsApp group so you guys can take a look at it yourself. And there's a whole bunch of chains on here and stuff. The thing I love about it is that, it's showing all these wonderful South Park characters. I don't know why they decided the South Park characters were the representative of transactions, but I think it's brilliant. So hopefully that answered the question. It didn't confuse you. I don't know.
Yeah, it was very helpful. And I had a few more follow-up, but I'll just come back to it after others. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other, were there other questions? Oh yeah, there are the raised hands.
Yes, I have one question. Like I can see the blocks on the txcity.io.
Yeah.
How are these people getting into the blocks? I mean, different blocks. Is there any algorithm which decides that these many will get into a particular kind of bus and then a block? I mean,
So
yeah.
So if we had one for Arbitrum, you guys, the transactions that you guys did to send it would be the transactions that gets tossed into the block. And the reason why you get thrown into the block is because you're willing to pay a certain gas fee. Now there are certain times when the blockchain gets really busy and you have to, like, your transaction gets rejected. Or it just takes forever, and it says, like, hey, do you want this transaction to happen? You might want to increase your amount you're willing to pay for gas in order to get it to kind of prioritized. So that's a detail that doesn't always happen, but it's important to understand kind of how the blockchain is architected and how it prioritizes things. So you asked the question, like, how do you get in there? Right now, I think the Arbitrum network is pretty light in terms of transactions, and so and the thousandth of a penny is nothing. So you guys just it was easy to hit the default and kind of get your transaction accepted in the next block and get it approved and stuff. So hopefully that answers your question. Yushra, you've had your hand up for a while. What's up?
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm a novice on this front, but I wanted you to comment on why we're using Arbitrum. Maybe I think you alluded
Yeah.
to it in your last comment, and also, like, if you could explain a bit, like, what is it? Like you said, it's a network, like what but it also has Ethereum in it. So I mean, but then we also saw that there's an Ethereum network. So if you could just explain what it is.
Sure.
that-
Yeah. I don't have a specific slide on what's called layer 2 networks. The reason why we're using Arbitrum is because it's super cheap to do transactions on, and it's exactly the same experience as doing it on Ethereum. So all of the transactions we did, if we did them on Ethereum, they'd be like $3 to send you a $1 token, right? So it's kind of stupid to do that. But for this purposes, we wanted to pick kind of a Ethereum network that had the same experience but was a heck of a lot cheaper and frankly a lot faster too. A layer 2 network, I probably will make a slide for the next time around, so I appreciate your comment on this. A layer 2 network basically has all the same capabilities and it has all the nodes, but all of the nodes have a special feature in them in that they confirm to the Ethereum blockchain every so many blocks, and that's defined by the architecture of the Arbitrum network. Arbitrum, I think it was founded by a couple of university professors like 5-10 years ago. And they use like a slightly different or fancier blockchain capability. And it's supposed to be a lot faster and a lot cheaper. But ultimately, it uses the EVM technology. So all the smart contracts, the wallets, everything else is the same. You just need to bridge funds from an Ethereum network over into the Arbitrum network. So hopefully that's not making it more confusing. I'm glad you said you're a novice. Hopefully everybody here is a novice, except for Rondell, who's a security expert there. So does that answer your question, or is there something else that's confusing about layer 2 to layer 1 that I can help
I
answer?
think I'm more confused,
Oh,
but I
sorry.
think I'm gonna have to do a little more like background research
Yeah.
myself. But thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry. Okay, Colfax, you want to go, or should we have Rondell go? You choose.
Rondell, why don't you go, and then I'm going to do a demo for how to view the addresses that you're sending to and from, and then there's a question in the chat. So Rondell, why don't you go?
Okay. Not an expert at all, so just want to put that out into the space. But I'm curious if there are arbitrage opportunities between the different layers. So maybe like layer 1, layer 2 arbitrage or cross-chain arbitrage or temporal cost arbitrage because you do it at different times. So it's change. You kind of trade off between liquidity versus, I guess, let's call it congestion costs. How do you, is that a thing?
There's a ton of opportunities out there, and there's a ton of companies going after them. And of course, if I knew all the arbitrage, why would I admit that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, there are market makers, and there's a lot of people that dig into the weeds of the blockchain and how it actually kind of does transactions. And there's a ton of money being made kind of understanding the depths of that stuff. But when I was talking about how, we're up here where the humans interact with it, and then you get more and more technically sophisticated as you get further and further down, those guys that are doing kind of market making and arbitrage finding and exploiting are all operating in kind of the lower levels down there. So yes, there are opportunities, and anytime there's an arbitrage opportunity, usually it gets figured out pretty quick. So I'm sure there's a ton of AIs that are beating that up now too. So I don't know, Colfax, do you know any arbitrage opportunities out there that you
I
want to
mean,
share?
none that I know to like take advantage of and start a business around. But there's tons of arbitrage. Like for example, there's like liquidity differences on different networks, and so you could possibly find arbitrage opportunities by like maybe that liquidity impacts like the price on a network. I know there's all sorts of things. So you're asking the right question. And if you're interested in the topic, like I'd learn more and go one layer deeper. There's definitely some opportunities. Not as much as there was like 5 years ago, but I'm sure there are still some.
Yeah, and there's new stuff coming out all the time. So staying ahead of it and stuff is fun. So go
Cool.
ahead.
So we've
Go
got a
back
few
to
more questions here. I'm going to share my screen here and just go through an example transaction on Arbiscan, and then we're going to answer a few questions in the chat. So I'm here looking at my address on Arbiscan, and you can see this latest transaction that came in. Can everyone see my screen?
I just stopped sharing, so I may have been taking over the screen. Sorry about that.
No worries. Can everyone see my screen now? Perfect. I see some nods. Cool. So I'm going to pick this latest transaction. So whoever's address starts with 0x4246, we're going to look at your transaction. Just for fun, if this is your address, pop your name or pop a hi in the chat.
Unless you're super private, in which case, we'll find somebody else.
That's true. All right, great. It's Shreya. Is that how you pronounce your name? I hope so.
Yes.
Great, Shreya. Well, thank you so much for being the demo participant. So I clicked here on the transaction. There's a couple important things to look at here. The core that you want to look at is this is the from address. So this is Shreya's address where the transaction came from. And this is the to address, which is where the funds were sent to. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to share this next step, and then feel free to forget it if you just want to keep on the simpler layer. Technically speaking, Shreya's address did not actually send a transaction to my wallet. It sent a transaction to the program, the smart contract that's deployed on Arbitrum that manages DAI, which is this address. And so that's why this is a little bit confusing, because technically Shreya is interacting with the application on the chain. And Shreya sends a command to that application saying, hey, application, I have whatever it is, 2 DAI. Please send 5 cents of that to this other address. And so if you're looking at this screen, you'll see that you interact with this contract, which is actually not me, but Shreya is sending the funds to me. There's a bunch of other stuff on the screen, which I'll skip over for now, but if you have any specific questions, let me know. But yeah, does that make sense as far as who you're sending to and from? Yes, Stuti?
Really quick question on that. So essentially what you're saying is that the way a central bank works, like you just put in a request to send this money to someone, and at the end of it, it clears the accounts.
Exactly. Yeah. Great analogy.
And other buses on TXity, what that is, like, or
The
is that
buses is like you like your message to the central bank account, essentially. Steve, anything to add there?
Cool. Am I sharing now or
No, you are not.
okay,
The
okay.
contract is like an API.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to keep going on the main thing because we got a bunch more content to cover and I was just mindful of time. So let's
Sounds good. There's a few other questions in the chat. Should we circle back to them later?
So there's one question that I actually am going to cover in the next section.
Sounds
So
good.
why don't we continue on with the content here and we'll
Perfect.
come back. Can everybody see my slides or is there something else I need to do? Everybody can see them? No? Yes?
I can see him. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So there was a question earlier about wallet privacy, and I want to cover that now. So what you've been seeing over and over and over again is that all transactions and holdings are publicly visible. It's pseudonymity, not anonymity. Wallets are just alphanumeric aliases. And then you leave fingerprints and the on and off ramps to kind of people can figure out what's going on with it. And it's sort of this philosophy of radical transparency. Full transaction graph sits on a public append-only ledger that anyone can audit in real time. So in summary, kind of if you think about your wallet, anyone can see your balance, anyone can see your transactions in or out, anyone can put assets into your wallet. So when Colfax sent you funds, you didn't say, yes, I want to take them. They just went in and they were there, right? So there was no approval on your end. But to take money out, you had to actually like specifically approve that transaction to say, yes, I want this to go out, and yes, it's okay. So only the private holder can remove assets, sign on behalf of the wallet, or enter a smart contract transaction. One of my students years ago said it's like a glass safety deposit box where only you can remove things and anyone can deposit, anyone can see what's inside and all historical transactions. So it's a little bit more than a glass safety, but it's like a glass safety deposit box with like a list with like a movie that you can reverse and see what transactions happened in the past on it. So it's an interesting, analogy if you think about it, because why would you do that, right? Unless everything is anonymous, right? So there's no way you can track unless you disclose that. So that's the privacy level that I think someone was asking earlier about that I wanted to kind of hit on so you guys understand that thoroughly. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try buying a token with the funds that are in your wallet right now. So you used to have two, some of you have more now, right? Plus you have some funding for gas token, but how do we buy a token? In order to understand that, there was a question about market makers, which I'm going to go into right now. And I want to talk about central versus decentralized exchanges. And by exchanges, I mean like Wall Street. I mean like a brokerage house. So a central exchange or Wall Street has a concentration of buyers and sellers. It has very high liquidity. It has, market makers. It has people doing, holding the books and handling kind of the buying and selling of stocks and trading on those. It has great price discovery and it has the best deals. So you have that centralization, that high concentration. So the concept of doing an exchange on a decentralized network is really hard to kind of wrap your head around because there's all these great benefits of being central. So how the heck can you do it in a decentralized way? Who would provide the big questions are who would provide the liquidity, right? If I don't have all these benefits of a centralized exchange, who's going to provide that liquidity, and who's going to set the prices to make the market? And so in 2018, these guys at Uniswap decided to take this challenge on and figured out how to launch kind of the first decentralized exchange. And the way I'm going to tell you how they solved those two core problems. But first, I want you to know that it's open source. It's a public good. All smart contracts on that exchange are open source. So you can like go and audit, or you can have your friends audit kind of the core open source of this. And what I'm going to talk about is Uniswap 1.0. Since Uniswap has come out in November 2018, you can imagine there's a lot of versions since then. But the easiest one to understand, which is already hard enough to understand, is 1.0. So that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so how do they provide liquidity? It turns out what they want to do is to make decentralized liquidity. So any one of you guys with your newly minted wallet can provide liquidity into liquidity pools, into trading pools. And the way you do it is by taking 50% value of one pair and 50% value of the trading pair. And you can do, and the example I like to give is ETH USDC. So this was back when ETH was $2,400. So you take, ETH was $1,200. So you take one ETH and $1,200 USDC, which is an equivalent US dollar value, 50-50. And I bond those together and I post them in a newly minted token into the Uniswap liquidity pool. So I interact with the Uniswap decentralized exchange and I become a liquidity provider. Now, why would I do that? Because each trade provides 0.3%. So when people want to buy Ethereum through the Uniswap decentralized exchange, it generates a little fee for it, and I get 0.3% of that that's added to the pool. So what you can do is you can bond your two tokens together, add them to a pool, and as the exchanges happen, the value of that bonded token goes up by 0.3% every time a transaction, or whatever, 0.3% of the transaction amount, not the amount that you put in the pool. Comes into it adds value to the token that you've created when you bond those two together. So that's how they solve the decentralized liquidity problem, by allowing everybody to participate in it. And of course, the Uniswap gets 0.3% fee too, so they do fine in the whole process. Now, the hard question is, how do you set a price for that token exchange? And what they do is use a little bit of math, which is a simple hyperbola formula, x times y equals k, and that's what this curve looks like. So in order to decide what the price of Ethereum and USD is going to be, they use this curve, and it's set, that K value is set when the token is first launched. And what happens, and if you look at this, it sort of makes sense. As the quantity of ETH goes up and the amount of USDC goes down, you can imagine that the value of the ETH goes way down, because there's a ton of ETH and there's not a lot of USDC, right? So if you just think about supply and demand, you can see how moving towards this end, the price goes way down, and the value of the thing that's low is going way up. So as you move to the other direction and the quantity of ETH in the pool goes down, then the amount of USDC goes up, then the price is going, much higher, because there's lower amounts of ETH and there's a lot more USDC in the pool. So even though it's just a simple hyperbola, it's actually a very nice way of balancing supply and demand for the pricing of all the tokens that you want to put in there. So they use this, what's called automatic market maker, constant product formula to price their tokens. So in other words, it's really the supply and demand that's providing the pricing, and it's done by a smart contract, and there's no person deciding that, hey, this person wants to buy a bunch, I want to jack up the price a little bit because they're really hungry for the tokens or whatever. It's just an automated process. And the slope of that curve, or the position of that curve, changes as you add more liquidity into the liquidity pool. That curve moves further and further out. So if you think about it, it's a little hard to visualize, but if you think about it, as it moves further and further out, the point that the prices fluctuates around gets much more stable. So the bigger the liquidity pool, the more stable the price is. And there have been some challenges in the past where people have done things called rug pools, where you put in a bunch of liquidity and then you take out a whole bunch of liquidity, and it does crazy things to the price. But when you have a decentralized liquidity pool and an automatic market maker, then there are people that are monitoring these prices and can figure out how to kind of increase and decrease, how to manage the price of their token more carefully. There are entire firms now. I think Wintermute is one of the bigger ones that manage markets on behalf of token holders. So large token holders, large token traders will engage in one of these firms, just like on Wall Street, in order to kind of manage the liquidity of their token. So if there's people playing games on the edges, they know that the firm they have has a big amount of funding in to kind of manage the liquidity on behalf of their token. So that kind of quickly answers, and by the way, I am going through this fairly quickly because the concept of decentralized liquidity pools is like an entire lecture, and the concept of automatic market maker is like an entire lecture too. So I wanted you guys to understand kind of how those things work, because when you go and do a transaction with Uniswap and you buy a token, the question is, who's on the counterparty, like who's doing the other side of it. And that's the answer to the question. Someone has provided liquidity, months ago or weeks ago, and someone else, and then the smart contract is actually providing the active price based on kind of the active buying and selling that's happening right now on that. So what I'd like you guys to do is try buying a token on Uniswap, and you have to go to this app.uniswap.org in order to do that. So hopefully you all can do that either via your web page with MetaMask on it if you're on a laptop, or you can use the integrated browser inside the MetaMask app. So maybe Colfax, are you able to do that? Let me see here.
Yes, I will. Let me, I'm just going to post the link in the chat quickly, and then
Yeah,
I'll do a quick demo.
now that I'm seeing the newer updated what's it called? Oh yeah, so now there's just a plus sign to do trading directly in the MetaMask app. So I believe MetaMask has sort of taken over that routing, and now they want to route all the trades, with their own with their own sort of market maker on the front end of a lot of that stuff. If you go to app.uniswap.org, you should be able to do it on your own, though. Do you want to do a demo, Colfax?
I'm happy to. Yeah, would you like me to demo MetaMask or Uniswap?
Well, why don't you pull it up on your own screen and make sure it still works correctly, and I'll just walk through kind of the steps here that we have kind of generically. I'm not sure if the right side works the same way anymore because of the mobile app update, but if you just go to app.uniswap and go into swap, you'll see that you can kind of click on this swap and kind of trade your DAI for ETH, or trade it for any number of tokens that are down here. And then you'll have to actually approve it. And I believe you have to approve it twice if it's the very first time you've ever done a certain token. And the first time you have to say, like, I'm giving it authority. I'm giving this smart contract authority to trade, a certain number of tokens on my behalf. And then you can actually do the swap. It's a little bit clunky in that regard. So, and then you can review your transaction on Arbiscan. So that's what we're gonna do. So I don't know if Colfax, if you want to take over.
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me stop sharing.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go through Uniswap first, and then I can do the MetaMask one. Let me just go back to where everyone would be starting at. Great. So here I just navigated to app.uniswap.org. And I'm landed here. You can see I still have MetaMask right here, but you won't need that. You'll need it in just a second. And so first thing that you'll do, actually, so let me just disconnect here. You'll probably see here there'll be a connect button in the top right. So the first thing you want to do is actually connect to your wallet. So it's interesting because the MetaMask in the browser extension here is not connected to the website necessarily just yet. So you're going to click connect, and you're going to pick MetaMask. And you can see that this is the wallet that I have here. So you can just go ahead and click connect. And now you can see your address is up here. And so it says I have 0 ETH. That's because this is looking on the Ethereum mainnet. So again, you're going to go here to network. And again, it's very small, but you're going to pick this network tab here, and you're going to find Arbitrum. And once we're on Arbitrum, we actually see, if I close this out, oh, it doesn't persist. Okay, I'm just going to pick Arbitrum here. And then I can actually see that I have my tokens here. So I have some Arbitrum ETH, and I have some DAI. So I have 65. Each of you should have somewhere between like 1 and 2, depending on if you sent some. And if you ran out too, just feel free to drop your address in the chat, and I'll send you some more. Please be honest though, because we have limited funds. And so I'm going to go here and I'm going to swap DAI for Steve. What should I swap for?
I think lately we've done USDT, right? Tether, the Tether token.
USDT. Is this investment advice, Steve?
It is not investment, but Tether. There you go, Tether USD.
So
it's
Tether
not
USD.
Advice. It's only because it's a controversial stable coin that I'm hoping that I don't know. I think Tim is probably off the call already, but I'm hoping that Professor Masad there will have issues with. So that's the only reason why I bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's for educational purposes only, you might as well have some fun, right?
Exactly. So this is DAI, and then USDT is another coin that's generally worth $1. It can fluctuate a little bit. You can see one here is worth 0.999996. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead, one DAI for USDT. I'm going to hit review transaction. And the network cost is less than a penny, and I'm going to hit swap. And
Now,
then this is going to actually open up MetaMask, which is where I'm going to actually sign the transaction.
don't use
Um,
smart account.
I would recommend do not use Smart Account. This is like a separate new feature that we're not going to use right now, and we will not talk about it since it's can be a little confusing. And so now we're going to have to approve and swap. So this is what Steve was talking about.
I was wondering if you had ever done a transaction with Tether before. So if you had, then you wouldn't have to do the steps. I'm glad you haven't.
I have not.
Or this
So I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. And then now I'm going to click confirm again. And so now this is my actual transaction request. So one DAI for one USDT. And now this is actually going to go through. And now you can see already instantly my USDT balance is updated. And so if I actually go back to Arbiscan and I go to my transactions and I refresh, 15 seconds ago, interacted with Uniswap. And you can see here in my tokens, I have USDT now.
someone had asked, someone asked about arbitration opportunities. There is liquidity pools on Arbitrum and liquidity pools on Ethereum mainnet for the same token pairs. And if you think about those two like networks, they should really be the same. So if there's a pricing difference between them, I'm sure there's an opportunity to exploit that difference. But then you have to get into bridge fundings and that kind of stuff. So that's probably too confusing. So okay.
All right, so some people are running into saying zero funds even when on Arbitrum. This interface, it can be a little confusing. So go to Arbitrum and then make sure you're selecting DAI on Arbitrum. So look for this like tiny little Arbitrum logo here. If I search for DAI, there's DAI on many different networks. If you're say on all networks, like this is DAI on some other networks. So make sure you see the Arbitrum DAI. That's sort of a common gotcha.
I see that Bonnie has a challenge of not enough DAI. That seems, oh, maybe that's a network challenge.
Maybe that's a network thing. Yeah, I guess it's probably worth going through and just showing that within MetaMask swap feature 2, which may circumvent this issue. Within MetaMask, you can also swap. So it's called a swap, or it's a trade, or it's like a FX, like a foreign exchange, essentially, if you can think about it in a traditional world. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to click swap. And then instantly it brings up my ETH. What I'd want to do instead here is click DAI. And then my destination will be USDT. And see, I already have one USDT here from my previous swap. And I'm going to go ahead and swap one more DAI for one USDT. And I'm going to hit swap. And now if I look at my tokens, I should have 2 Tether USDT once it updates. So we will.
What happens when you click on the activity there? Sending. Swap. Oh, is it swapped?
Click on Arbiscan. So they to learn a bit about the mechanics, my trade was batched in with other trades here in the same transaction. So that might be why it took a second to confirm. And now I have 2 USDT.
Okay, it looks like people are having problems making sure the DAI is on Arbitrum DAI, but I think it's really the key is that tiny little icon that shows the big DAI and then the small little black dot on that. Stuti, did you have some questions or comments?
Really quick question. So even though I'm able to find the Arbitrum DAI, when I change it to the the swap, the buy one to USDT, it changes my sell as well.
Hmm.
Are you let me know if this is okay, Steve, but if Stuti, would you be willing to share your screen and we can walk through it together?
Sure.
I'm not sure if you can, but if you can, that'd be great. We might have to make you a co-host or something. I don't know. Oh yeah, there we go. All right.
And then yeah, somebody else who's having the other balance issue, would love for you to share your screen next and we can walk through it.
So for this, I selected the Arbitrum die. And then for this, you want us to select the USDT, correct?
Yep. So this is tricky because this is selecting USDT. So this is silently changing the network under the scenes. So if you go back here to die, and then find Arbitrum die. So I would in the top right here below the X, I would change the selector, yeah, to Arbitrum.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And then click die.
Yeah.
And then down below, if you select token, yep. Now you can pick any token on any network, and it seems like there's kind of a UX problem here where if you choose a different network, it'll change your origination currency. Now you have USDT selected on Arbitrum. Yeah, so that's some good feedback actually for the Uniswap folks.
Yeah, and actually, you can see on your screen that you do have two die. It shows you the current balance. So
Yep.
it's actually looking at the right network and showing that you do actually have two die in there and no USDT, right? So that's correct.
I expect that's probably an issue that many people have run into. But yeah, if one of the other people that's running into a balance issue would like to share the screen, we can walk through it. Thanks for being brave, Stuti.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
we should probably move on with others, but Maria, go for it. Maria's the last one, then we'll go on with others.
Sounds good, Maria. So
You're
let's
on.
pick your origin currency. So click where it says DAI. And then in the top right, actually change
Yeah.
that selector to Arbitrum.
That's it. That's it. That's the problem.
Thank you.
Yep, and then DAI, and then for your destination token, now when you select USDT, if you type in USDT tier, it's already filtered by Arbitrum.
Yeah.
Yep, and so
Got
now
it.
you should be good to go. Yep.
Awesome. Woohoo! We're getting it. All right. Let me finish up with one or two last slides, and then we'll open the floor to any final questions. But we should be able to finish up here in the next few minutes and let everybody get going here. So one of the questions that we often get, and you, by the way, you all, Colfax showed you all how to see your transaction on Arbiscan. So once you buy the token, you'll be able to see it there. One of the questions we often get is, what's the counterparty risk on Uniswap? So technically speaking, the only counterparty for the actual exchange is code, is smart contracts. And that's why I made the point earlier about Uniswap being open source. There should be no custodial counterparty. So they stay in your wallet until they're ready to get moved over, and then they get swapped right away in sort of one full transaction. So there's no way that somebody can snipe in it once it's like done, it's done. There could be token or project risks, right? So if you're buying a token and the token is a scam, then the Uniswap part works fine, but the token that you bought is terrible. And then I mentioned liquidity depth risk or rapid rug pulls, and that's if for some reason there's maybe two or three people that are providing all the liquidity for a token and they decide to sort of take it all out of the market at once, and then there's no more market for your token. So that's not the Uniswap risk, that's not the counterparty risk, but that's certainly the kind of decentralized players. So there's a lot of metrics that people use to say how many people are actually providing liquidity for this token and how many networks provide liquidity for it, and does it actually have really good, robust pricing and truly decentralized growth. And then, of course, there's always the interface and phishing risks. So people, if anybody ever texts you or calls you and says, in order for me to help you, I'm going to need your mnemonic phrase. I'm going to need your 12-word key phrase. That's the time to hang up and report them to the authorities, because they're obviously trying to steal your funds. I don't think there's anybody that needs that. There should be no one that needs that in order to solve your problems, whatever they may be, unless the problem is they want to steal your funds. So, you had a question? Someone had their hand raised. Was that a mistake? That's fine. If someone had a question, please pop up and let's answer it.
It wasn't me, but I'll jump in here really quickly. You said there is a way to tell kind of the percentage of like individuals providing liquidity within a certain pool.
Yes, there is. I don't know how to do it off the top of my head though. So
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. I mean, cryptocurrency in general has gotten so mature, and Wall Street has kind of embraced it so much that all of the same analytical companies and, Ernst and Young and Deloitte and all of the Wall Street analysts have now sort of adopted their crypto branch to kind of take all the analysis tools that you have and marry them with the same sort of trading transactions and analysis that you do in cryptocurrency, with the additional enhancement that there's a whole bunch of venues to do transactions on, and how the heck do you aggregate them together is not just Wall Street and Frankfurt or whatever. It's like 10,000 different decentralized exchanges and a bunch of different networks. So yes.
Gotcha. Would it be okay to follow up afterwards later?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You guys, I'm on WhatsApp. You guys got that, and actually, I think this is kind of my let me just do a couple more comments on USDC. USDC is a fiat based backed stablecoin, which means that for every USDC that's minted out there, there's $1 cash in a bank somewhere, and they are audited, and the audit is published, I think via BlackRock and probably a couple of other firms. And Circle is the one that's behind that. The reason why that's interesting and powerful is because if you think about it, you're instantly doubling your money, right? I take $1, I stick it in a bank account, and it can, gain treasury interest and just sits there and secure. And then that is backing a digital currency that I mint on my own. And Circle is the one that actually wrote the ERC20 code that defines kind of the the USDC thing. And you can go read it online, actually. And that is the thing that has all the velocity in the marketplace. So you're getting all of this wonderful transactions and interactions with this digital currency, but you're holding on to all of the funds in the bank account itself. So a lot of people it's become kind of a really big deal to look at stable coins. And with the latest stablecoin bill, which I'm not going to make a comment about because that's Tim's expertise, but it sounded like, every company could have their own stable coin. So I was like, why doesn't Amazon have an Amazon dollar? And why doesn't Visa have a Visa dollar, right? Because it's like they could just take all the dollars and stick them into a bank account and then just, do electronic transactions. Not that they don't do that already today, but it seems like a new avenue for them to go down. So, and then in order to convert USD to USDC, you deposit one real dollar into a bank account, and then USDC just mints another token and then allows it to launch on chain, which is actually fairly trivial to do these days. So, I mean, I could teach anybody in here how to mint your own token and how to do that. In fact, that's what we do in some of the further on classes in the blockchain ventures class. And then if you want to convert it back, you send it back to the Circle smart contract, and it gets burned, and then they release the funds from the bank account and send you your dollar back. So it can happen in Coinbase, or you can do it directly through Circle's activities. So, okay, so questions on that? At this point, I think I will pause. And I think, let's see, what time is it? Yeah, we have a few more minutes for questions. So why don't we go for it? Joel, your hand is still raised. I assume you didn't mean to leave that up, but Colfax.
Yep, there's another question in the chat I'll read out. This workshop is so great about the how, but what about the why? Should everybody be transacting on blockchains?
Yeah, that's a common question. In fact, I've done this class with some global bankers, so central bankers from around the world come into Harvard, and somebody asked the question like, "Hey, I've got a Visa card. It does a transaction just fine. Why do I need this blockchain?" And I think the important thing that they're missing is the behind the scenes. So if you ever look at, and I'm trying to build a quick website to display this, but if you look at kind of doing a transaction between, someone in Chicago tried to send $5,000 to someone in China, and if you look at kind of how you have to do it with today's financial network, there's a transaction with the local bank, then there's a transaction with Fedwire, and then Fedwire has to do like another transaction over to Frankfurt, over to China, and then that has to get, so there's like, I think about 8 steps and maybe about $40, and it takes a couple of weeks. But if I if I have 5,000 USDC and I want to send them to somebody over in China, I can just do it in like we just did. There's no difference between the, well, other than Arbitrum and Ethereum. But if I wanted to send $5,000, there's no difference in the transaction amount from what we just did today for, 99 cents and $5,000 to send it across the world. So the why, in my view, is that you could have a fully decentralized with no company and no government oversight of a financial network. Now, I'm sure you're all thinking, well, yeah, that's great for the criminals. But if you think about a lot of other people that, can't actually transact and have some challenges with, oppression and some other issues, there's a lot of freedom that comes out of a lot of that stuff. So that's one of the reasons why. I think Tim has 10,000 others, but I'll just leave it at that. Colfax, do you have any more whys? Because there's certainly a ton of whys.
There's a lot. My high level summary is it's broadly speaking like faster, cheaper, and more transparent than traditional banking rails. Granted, you need to get funds on chain, but like when you're moving money, it's faster, cheaper, more transparent. Just while I have you, Steve, there's one more question here going back to Circle. Sorry for missing it, but what is the benefit for Circle to provide fiat guarantee?
Yeah, so the challenge with stablecoins is proving. So the reason why I wanted you guys to buy USDT is if you look at the history of Tether, that claims to be a fiat-backed stablecoin. So the question is, if I say, hey, everybody at Harvard Kennedy School, I'm issuing a stablecoin, just trust me. It's like, well, how do I know it's actually worth $1? If you sold it to me, if you took my dollar and you gave me this token, how do I know it's worth $1? Well, if I have audits that prove that I have the bank to back it up, then that provides confidence to the marketplace, confidence to the traders that that's actually what that token is really worth, and that you can exchange it at any point in time for $1. That's kind of like the gold standard back when the US was on the gold standard. It's like you could theoretically take the dollars and go back and get $1 worth of gold at any point in time. So it was kind of like, no, really, this is worth $1. Really, really it is, because at any point you can do that. And most people don't, but having that option is important in times of sort of stress. So that's the reason why Circle wanted to have that, has that fiat guarantee, and why they do all of the auditing and publications. So if you read anything about Tether, the challenge is they apparently have, I think they have more transactions, like 3 billion, I don't know, 30 billion, I don't know how much they have in there, but the question has always been, there's a challenge around, do they actually have that money in the bank accounts? And they sort of publish some audits that are questionable, but be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on whether or not you think it's legitimate. Tether is also a lot more broadly used. So even though you think it's like USDT and USDC, they should be exactly the same, you will find, and to my arbitrage friend, you will find that there are some markets where USDT and USDC, like USDC trades at a higher premium. Yeah, and I'm talking about like thousandth and 10 millionths of a penny. But that's because, USDC might be more viewed as more credible than USDT, because it has that questionable audit piece. So, if you're willing to take that risk, then maybe you're willing to put up a big trade on those things to kind of make up the difference. So hopefully that answers that question. Shreya, you had a question.
Yeah, quick couple of questions. One is that so going from DAI to USDT or USDC, is it like exchanging currency like from dollar to pounds and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it that way. It's just very simple to do because it's $1. It's supposed to be $1 to $1, but yeah.
Okay. And can we get back to like the fiat currency or like dollar amounts from any of the tokens, like from USDT, USDC, Ethereum, or any of them? Or do we have
Yeah.
to convert them first to stablecoin and then we get like dollar amounts?
So that's a function of your off ramp. So we didn't talk about much, but on ramp and off ramps are like Coinbase. So if you're in the US, Coinbase is the most popular one to use. You just sign up and get an account, just like a bank account. You tie your bank account together with your wallet, and then you can move funds from a bank account into a wallet, in whatever form you want. And then once you're in that wallet on Coinbase, you can buy or sell tokens inside Coinbase, and then you can move them out to a currency. So to answer your question, like I could move Ethereum into my bank account, but as soon as I did that, it would trigger a trade to sell it probably into USD directly, and then I would just get the USD deposit, because my bank account will only handle USD. I can't handle any other currencies in it. So does that make sense?
Okay. So one more question. So say if I want to transfer funds between two different countries and like I connect my bank account and put like money over there in USDT or USDC,
Yep.
and then I send it to someone's account in another country. So
Yep.
it'll be the same dollar amount. So basically it eliminates any kind of like
Yep.
transaction fee or stuff like that that we have in sending
Correct.
normal fiat currency.
Correct. Yeah, and the question is going to be the off ramp in the other currency. I can tell you about the on and off ramp in the United States with Coinbase, getting money in and out, but the question is the off ramp wherever you want to send it to. I don't know whatever the laws are locally, and if there's like somebody that says,
Okay.
"Oh, well, you're bypassing the rules of, what is it called? Not Wells Fargo, but the other transfer companies. So you have to pay the $20 fee anyway, or something dumb like that." So hopefully, in terms of the blockchain, yes, you should be able to transfer money on the Arbitrum network. You should be able to transfer $5,000 for in like 10 minutes for like less than a penny, right? That's what you should be able to do. But if you can't get it from Arbitrum back into someone's bank account in another country, then that's where it falls flat. So
Got it, got it. And also the liquidity pool that we were talking about, is that more like the street that you showed? Is it like the liquidity pool essentially means like people pooling in material to build those like buses, etc., and like putting stuff in that?
no, that bus thing is really like building the blockchain. So people
Okay.
talk about blockchain in terms of having block height. I don't know why they call it block height. I wish they called it block length, but anyways, it's called block height. So you take a block and it's like a link of the chain and you link them all together. That's the block.
Got it.
So when the buses come on, they're building the next block. So each of the transactions are really just like I want to buy or sell transactions. So and another application is that whole liquidity pool where you're posting kind of the trading pairs in another smart contract that's operating on top of the chain. And actually, what you'll find in that thing is you'll see transactions that start from the Uniswap that decentralized application to go onto the chain to be confirmed. So every swap you make just turns into a transaction and goes onto the blockchain and gets confirmed in.
So where in that ecosystem does liquidity pool kind of lie?
So when you, as a user, right? So it's the decentralized user that says, I want to be a liquidity
Yeah.
provider for this smart contract. I will create a transaction that you'll see on that bus thing that says, I want to add, $1,200, 1,200 USDC plus one ETH, or I guess not anymore. It would be $900 plus one. No, it'd be $1,800 plus one ETH together because that's 50-50 pool. And I want to provide that as a liquidity pool. So I interact with the smart contract and then I do a transaction and that transaction gets locked into that blockchain, if that makes sense. But that funding goes into the smart contract that's on the Uniswap pool. So one of the things Colfax was showing the app.uniswap.org. If you play around with there and you click on pool and you click on, I think there's a lot more data and other things going on in that decentralized application. If you just in the web interface where it'll show you kind of the transactions and it'll show you the size of the pool. Somebody asked a question about like, how can you see how many providers of liquidity there are? If you poke around inside the app.uniswap.org to sort of look for data providers, and I think maybe even there's another website that provides the data for Uniswap. You can see kind of the active transactions, the current pricing. You can see all kinds of details from that trading information.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Colfax.
Yes, just following up. So you can see a bunch of data, as you're mentioning, on app.uniswap.org and click pools. But if we have time, I can share, but I'll go forward. There's a couple questions in the chat. One is MetaMask as good as a wallet and as Coinbase for transactions?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
So I said it in the beginning, but maybe I didn't say it in the beginning. I view MetaMask as like Microsoft Word. It's not the greatest, but everybody has it and it's super compatible with everything. And also, people tend to complain about it all the time because it's everywhere. I don't particularly like closed source things, and MetaMask is also closed source. And I don't have much experience with the Coinbase wallet. So because MetaMask is everywhere, I tend to use MetaMask. And I tend to teach MetaMask. I wish there was a better wallet, and there were some guys that were trying to build a better wallet that I was really hopeful for, but they decided to scrap that project. So we're sort of stuck with MetaMask. So I don't know if you have opinions on that. If you've used the Coinbase wallet, do you think it's better than MetaMask? Colfax?
No,
Oh, Nathan.
yeah, sorry. I asked the question, Steve Colfax.
Oh,
I
okay.
appreciate it. This has been great. No, I was just trying to understand that, again, right, coming with, some background, but not much. I was trying to understand you can trade in both, or you just use one as a wallet and the other one as kind of where you trade, so that you try to, segregate it for various different reasons.
Yeah, you could certainly, and I highly recommend having multiple wallets for all kinds of transactions, because you guys know how to make a wallet now, so it's not hard to make another wallet, once you have it. But I would try and disconnect your Google from it, because it's just going to give you the same wallet over and over and over again. If you put your private key in both wallets, then both wallets will have access as if they have the same account holder. I've never actually done that. I don't recommend it, but technically, if you wanted to try that, you could do that. So. But I recommend, I actually recommend you guys scrap this wallet that you currently have, or maybe not scrap it yet. Go home or go somewhere and write down the 12 secret words, create a really secure wallet, put those 12 words away, fold it up in a piece of paper and put it away in a safe deposit box, and then transfer the funds from the current wallet that you have today into that new wallet, and then forget about this wallet that we just used in class today. And then you have a secure wallet from which you can do transactions with. More secure wallet, I should say. So.
Excellent. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep, sure. No problem. I've got my code up here, so happy to connect with people if they want to chat. Other stuff, Colfax, that you want to cover, or any other last questions here? Otherwise, we'll say goodnight to you guys.
Since we're on the topic, I'll share my screen and I'll show a liquidity pool information on Uniswap. If you don't mind, Steve, maybe
Sure,
2 minutes.
Go for it.
Great. So I am going to share here, and I'm going to go back and I'll sort of show you how I ended up here. So if you go here, this is Uniswap. If you go to pool, and so there's different pools. There's currency pairs, as Steve mentioned. I'm going to actually pick the pool that we were just trading on, which is USDC, USDT on Arbitrum. And so there's so much information here. I'm just going to call out some specifics. One is these are actually, so this website's actually geared toward people with liquidity to consider providing liquidity to pools. So the first thing they show you here are the fees per day that are paid out to the liquidity providers. And this is in, yeah, I'm not sure the exact units here. It's somewhere in the millions, it looks like. I don't know why this says 21 and 2.7. But anyways, some amount of fees. The interesting thing to me is liquidity. So if you switch over here to liquidity, you can actually see the liquidity that's provided in the pool. And there's an interesting thing. So Uniswap's now on V3, and it's advanced from Uniswap V0 or V1, whatever Steve showed. Now, basically, I'm going to do like extremely basic understanding of Uniswap V3, but you can actually provide liquidity not for the entire curve, but you can choose what point on the curve you want to provide liquidity. There's like different little, they call them ticks or like slots. And so each of these is a slot. And so people are providing liquidity at different price pairs, essentially. And you can see the tick range of where 1 is equal to 1 is where the most liquidity is, because these tokens are supposed to equal the same thing. But there are some opportunist people on each side providing some liquidity. Like if the tokens are not exactly equal, then they'll get the fees for those trades. And so here's like an example for like if you wanted to find an arbitrage opportunity, you could maybe find a currency pair. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm just like sort of thinking out loud. Maybe you could find like a currency pair that doesn't have like very strong liquidity at a particular tick on a particular chain or something like that. And you could see maybe if there's like some fees. I guess this isn't arbitrage. This is more so just like fee optimization for being a market maker. But yeah, there's all sorts of like data and stuff you can get into here. But yeah, this is like maybe the 5,000, not the 30,000, but the 5,000 foot view of Uniswap.
So the one part I wanted to just caution on is that what Colfax is showing here is kind of Uniswap V3. And when I was talking about 50-50 split, that would be like the middle line here only. So
yeah.
because
Also,
that's
it
all
looks
that you're
like
allowed
this.
to provide liquidity at. So this is a lot more complex than kind of the stuff that we talked about. So I just wanted to warn you on that.
It is. This might actually be V4. So what I told you about V3 is probably already stale. So things move
Yeah,
fast.
and just real quick, V2 and 3 and 4 started to get into, you can define the band that you wanted to provide the liquidity pool in. So instead of just 50-50 only, you can like provide it in bands, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. There's one question here in the chat on, thank you for that, Colfax. How are transaction fees actually determined on blockchain? So it is a function of, it's not a function of the size of the funds. That's just like one transaction. It's a function of the complexity of the transaction. So as I mentioned, if you wanted to interact with a smart contract, or if you wanted to launch a smart contract, it was typically there's a certain number of, what's it called? Gas that's required for, so like a transaction might be like 1 gas, but then the price of gas for that network is going to fluctuate depending on the congestion. So it may be that you want to just send a token and it costs you 1 gas, but that fee fluctuates based on congestion. But if I want to launch a smart contract, it might be 10,000 gas, and the amount per gas token fluctuates. So I don't want to transfer it then. Your comment about if I want to send $20 to a friend, you wouldn't send $20 on Ethereum mainnet because it would cost you $50 to send $20, right? That would be foolish, which is why we went to the Arbitrum One network, because it's a lot cheaper to send, simple amounts of funds. So if we were to send the same amount of $1 on Ethereum mainnet to somebody using the same wallet addresses, it might cost like $3 or $4 or $10 because of the gas fees on, because of the price of it's because of the price of the Ethereum token on the mainnet, and because it's more definitive, right? So a layer 2 has the faster transactions, then it only locks it in every so often. A layer 1 will lock it in immediately. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to close up here with 3 minutes to spare. Eric, how are we doing? Is Eric still there, or did he leave?
Still here, yeah.
All right, good. Okay, so I think we're gonna if there's any final questions, let's do that now, and then we're gonna stop the recording, and then I'm gonna post the slides onto the WhatsApp group and everything else. Is there anything else people want? I think we put did I put the text city, the little funny little block bus things? I think I posted that to the WhatsApp group, so we can post all the rest of the stuff to the WhatsApp group as well.
I can ask a question, just a final one.
Sure.
So I noticed there was no extension for Safari for MetaMask. Is there a particular reason? Like, is that a security thing? There was
I don't think, I thought it could work with Safari. You can't get it to attach to Safari. I think if you have the latest Apple, I think they've been locking down on cryptocurrency stuff. I used to use it all the time with Safari. But I usually use Chrome all the time now, but so I don't know. Do you know, Colfax?
I don't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry about that, but hopefully any final questions. Otherwise, we don't need the funds back unless you want to send them back, but we will run more classes, so that's fine. You can minimize the expense for Harvard Kennedy School, but they're really for you guys to play with. So if you want to, after this class, if you want to go search for dApps and stuff to mess around with, you can spend the gigantic $2 of USDC on that. And you may actually have to convert USDC to Arbitrum ETH in order to fund some of the transactions that you want to do. So,
and I just shared the 2 lectures in the WhatsApp group.
Awesome. Okay, well, there's no other final questions. Thank you guys all for joining us. And the question about how you get your own money in is to do an on-ramp, which is Coinbase for the US. And any other place you're gonna have to send. You guys can post to the WhatsApp group. So after this is over, the WhatsApp group will still be going. So thank you guys. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks so much.